Good evening. Welcome in daily UPSC editorial audio program. Sets the bar. The Times of India. Lebanonization. Should Election Commission ensure internal democracy in political parties? Now the full editorial. Supreme Court sets the bar. The Times of India. Monitoring is key to actually abolishing discrimination in caste discrimination in prisons. Supreme Court has done great service in scrapping caste-based discriminatory practices from 11 state prison manuals. That such discrimination survived all jail reform in free India and flourished is testament to caste as an institution. As Supreme Court elaborated on how the British system imported caste discrimination into jail manuals, it also abolished the demarcation of habitual offenders by caste. Blind spot. The larger question perhaps is how did such caste discrimination go unnoticed all these decades since independence? In the most recent reformatory step, members of National Human Rights Commission and NALSA, a statutory body that provides legal aid to weaker sections, were among contributors to the Model Prison Manual of 2016. The expert committee was formed by Supreme Court on a suo motu writ petition in 2015 on inhuman conditions in 1,382 prisons. The 2016 edition was an update on a 2003 manual. State prison manuals have been modernized by states which care care for prison reform, largely based on guidelines in the central manual. In all the modernization, however, one aspect, division of prisoners labor by caste and segregation of quarters by caste, remained a blind spot, although it is an open secret. Supreme Court's Thursday order ensures it is no longer unseen. Reform limited, with the Constitution promising equality, caste activism and reform almost entirely focused on Dalit uplifts limited to stopping atrocities against so-called lower caste, but caste remained a firm hold on ideas of occupation, marriage, funeral rituals, among other everyday matters in jail. Therefore, Brahmins would cook, those whose caste vocation is barbering would do so, and the most marginalized would do menial tasks, including in women's prisons. If a woman of the appropriate caste wasn't available for the given task, such as segregation of superior and inferior decided at birth, reinforces caste hierarchy. So OBCs berate lower OBCs. Dalits would attack Mahadalits, as we recently saw in Bihar. Such graded inequality remains ruinous, yet has been impossible to root out. It has to happen. Supreme Court has instituted a compliance mechanism, but can expect reluctance in implementation. Supreme Court has empowered the progressive minded in prison administration. This is not about Dalit or Brahmins. It is about constitutional principles that government run prisons must abide by. Period. Dismantling such structure has to be swift. States can't be allowed excuses of law and order problems to stall implementation. One has lost count of how many deadlines India has missed on eliminating manual scavenging, despite having a special law. Le- Lebanonization. No country, no matter how successful, can be safe if religious extremism and deep social division take hold. As Israel continues its ground and aerial assault on Lebanon as part of its battle against Hezbollah, more than 1,100 Lebanese have been killed and around 1.2 million have been displaced by the fighting. This is the largest displacement in Lebanon's history. That is saying something given the country's devastating civil war between 1975 and 1990. But Lebanon was not always a war ravaged country. Uh, Beirut was once called the Paris of the Middle East, both because of the city's affinity to French culture, hacking back to the old French mandate, and its cosmopolitan atmosphere. Co- Curse of sectarianism. Lebanon was a major tourist destination and a secure banking hub for Gulf Arabs, but it all came crashing down in the mid 1970s with the outbreak of civil war. The root of the problem was and continues to be Lebanon's unique confessionalist political system that saw power being shared between major religious communities. Hence, Lebanon's president has to be a mm, Moronite Christian, its prime minister is Sunni Muslim, and its parliament speaker is Shia Muslim. Dangerous authoring. Though the end of civil war saw an agreement to dissolve Lebanon's confessionalist system, its politics continues to be divided along sectarian lines. This in turn opened the door to international actors who made Lebanon their battleground from the west to Arab states and Iran, all cultivated Lebanese prox- proxies that eventually undermined the Lebanese state. The failure of Lebanese society as a whole to come together, irrespective of religious and sectarian differences in the region, while Lebanon continues to suffer. Caution for nations. Lebanon holds out a lesson in what happens when deep religious division take hold of a country. Lebanon could have been a jewel in West Asia. Instead, religious extremism, political polarization, and foreign interference combined to bring the country into this ruinous movement. Lebanonization serves as a warning for all nation states. Should election commission ensure internal democracy in political parties? The Hindu. O.P. Rawat, former chief election commissioner. M.R. Madhavan, co-founder and president of the PRS Legislative Research. India's multi-party democracy thrives on diversity, but often sees political parties driven by individual charisma that than internal democracy. Despite their role in upholding the nation's democratic framework, many parties struggle to maintain democratic structures. Can the Election Commission (EC) ensure these organizations practice internal democracy? Former Chief Election Commissioner O.P. Rawat and PRS Legislative Research President M.R. Madhavan discussed this question with Sriparna Chakravarti, edited excerpts. The Election Commission has been thinking of nudging political parties on the issue of internal democracy, but how can they do it? O.P. Rawat. The Election Commission is the registering authority for all the political parties in our country. As such, the Election Commission monitor whether they are functioning according to their constitution, by law, etc. And in the process, they also oversee whether the elections to their office bearers are taking place regularly. But there has been one important point in this whole issue. This was the 2002 ruling of the Supreme Court, which says that the Election Commission cannot go into the political process and anything which is part of the political process per se. This is why it has no power to deregister a political party based on any violation of these things. They can deregister if registration has been obtained on the basis of fraud or other things, but they cannot deregister a party if they don't have periodic elections. Otherwise, do whatever extent the law permits, the Election Commission is doing it. M.R. Madhavan, I have slightly different way of looking at what is the Election Commission's core mandate according to the Constitution. Their mandate is to conduct election for Parliament, state legislature, and the post of President and Vice President of India. They have to maintain electoral rules, and under Article 103, they advise on disqualification of any MP. This there is a similar one for MLAs other than the anti-defection disqualification disqualifications, which is decided by the speaker and not by them. This is their limited mandate, and the question are they carrying out this mandate well or not? So any institution should first do it core job and then take on more things. And many argument is that the election commission has det- deteriorate deteriorated in its core job, and they are unable to do even that. So before giving any institution an extra mandate, I would require them to do their core job first. This is my limited point, and I would not give them anything more because they are not competent enough to do what they are supposed to do in any case. What would be your views on whether the election commission should have the power to deregister party at all? OPR, I would like to say that the election commission does whatever is mandated to it with efficiency. The only thing is that when it comes to the deregistration of parties, I will have many different directions and or dimensions. Elections are challenged only by way of election petitions according to our constitution. We have been monitoring this and find that these disputes are much less every time over the years. If you compare us with the democracy in the most developed countries as well, they had a storming of their legislature when the results were against one candidate. The kind of thing we never witnessed in our country after any election, and political acceptance of the election result is beyond imagination for all democracies, which is borne by international conferences which I attended and which my colleagues attended everywhere. Election commissioners from different countries say that India is a golden example where acceptance of election results by all political party is enormous. With these credentials, if the election commission is made to go into the internal process, the political process for deregistering, we will be running the risk of getting the whole body into a model where even the main stakeholders, the political parties, will start developing suspicion. So I think we have to take a view in totality, not in the context of political parties, about registration and regulation, but also about the delivery of elections time and again on the stipulated time and in a free fair manner. MRM. So I am not going to talk about the election commission's reputation, which has been very high, but it has, in my opinion, faltered in the rating bit. But back to the idea of political parties being regulated by them, I would agree with Mr. Rawat in saying that they should not get into that, because then the election commission becomes political and susceptible to various political pressures. It should remain its distance from the politics of election commissioners from different countries say that India is a golden example where acceptance of election results by all political parties is enormous. OP Rawat, the day show, I would say, whether parties hold internal elections or not, you cannot regulate them, because even today they are required to hold. But what do there is somebody who manages it so that somebody is contesting unelected, or it is managed so that the people know who is going to get elected. I would say the discipline of political parties should come from the electorate. If people think that this party is not democratic and you want a democratic party, I don't vote for them. If people want them, they will vote for them. Is there any existing legal ground on which elections can be mandated within political parties? OPR. No, I feel there is nothing except for this registration of political parties by the election commission and the periodical review of compliance with their constitution, their bylaws and all those things. But in the end, this is a very kind of loose compliance which is visible. Probably the most well-known instances of election commission intervening in the lack of democracy issue was when they rejected the YSRCP proposals to make Jagan Mohan Reddy permanent president of the party. They said that such a step was inherently anti-democratic? Was this within its mandate? OPR, actually, the Election Commission does not have the kind of mandate, but within the framework of the political party registration rule, the Election Commission is overseeing the compliance with their constitution and their bylaws. Now, amending that is contrary to the democratic idea of periodic elections, and that is the point at which the Election Commission took shelter to reject the move. MRM does it matter because let them make that intervention. The party re-elects the same person again who will contest unopposed. I mean, the whole thing is that what we are talking about is not the reality, but what would be in the letter of the law and what can they do. But in reality, political parties are being essentially dominated by one personality who controls the whole thing. Then there is nothing that stops them from having an election with one candidate who will get selected for a post. So it will tick the boxes, but there is absolutely no difference in practice. In a situation where we want or think that the election commission should regulate internal democracy in political parties, how can such a law be brought in? MRM, my simple answer is that if it is not needed, so the question should not arise. OPR, I agree with Mr. Madhavan. We would leave this kind of decision to the people who are the sovereign electorate, and therefore I personally feel that one should not think of that. Why this question arises again and again is that the election commission has made certain observations in many of the cases where parties are split. OPR, actually, these issues fall under the political party's symbol order. Party symbol order 1968 paragraph 15, and under that election commission goes by four tests when there is a split: whether every faction has been following the party constitution, whether they have been having the majority of the party, the organization, whether they have been having the majority of the legislature being, or they are proceeding according uh, to the bylaws. All these four tests are applied every time, starting from Sadiq Ali case. It always comes down to the legislative majority because all other tests fail. The only test which is amenable to the summary inquiry is the number of legislatures with the uh, splinter group. So whoever has the majority of a number of legislatures with the splinter group gets the party symbol and the party name, and that has been the case with the election commission. In the next argument are there where the arguments cover the aspects that since this group which was in command did not hold elections, did not short of follow these bylaws, and therefore whatever orders they have passed for disqualifying are invalid, and all those things are just for by way of explanation. MRM, I will just add one thing, which is that I'm looking at it as a citizen, right? I mean, it is in our interest that election commission has a very high credibility on whatever it does. So that we trust the process, they need to have an objective way of making the decision. And as Mr. Rawat said, if you are counting the number of legislatures supporting, there there is an actual number there, and you can count if number A is greater than number B, or is number A less than number B, and make that decision. So that is a fairly wise way of doing it without getting politically entrapped, and I think they have been smart at doing that. Thank you.